What's up, Meta Nerds? This video is going to explain why Ahsoka and Agent Kallus both went by the codename Fulcrum. To help explain this, I'm going to be citing from the new Ahsoka book. Now, of course, Ahsoka survived Order 66, a nice little perk of having left the Jedi Order, but that didn't mean that the battle was over. Every day Ahsoka was afraid that she would be discovered, and she lived as a vagabond, working mostly as a mechanic and trying to stay as under the radar as possible. Her idea was that she would just never call on the Force, especially in public, and hopefully nobody would be able to figure out who she was. When in private, she was tortured by her own imagination as she thought about how Obi-Wan and her master Anakin must have been cut down by their own clone troopers. Despite her anguish, she was able to stay hidden for a long time. The only problem was that Ahsoka is a good person, and when the Empire came to the planet she was hiding out on, she couldn't just sit by and watch as the Empire oppressed the people and destroyed the planet. Once the locals started to talk about fighting back, Ahsoka knew that not helping them out would be the same as letting them go to their death. She finds it easy to become a commander again, and works to organize and coordinate the attacks on the Empire. And even though she was trying to deny it, there eventually became a time where she had to call on the Force to save her and her friends. The search for a surviving Jedi brought way too much heat to the planet, and Ahsoka has to abandon this resistance movement. She does eventually make it back to help, but she also runs into Bail Organa. She realizes that he's at the head of a resistance movement of his own, and at this point Ahsoka realizes that she's done with running, and she wants to be involved with something that might make the galaxy a better place. Bail tells her that she's going to need to come up with a code name, and she quickly comes up with the name Fulcrum. Now, I think it's important to point out that a fulcrum is defined as the point on which a lever rests and on which it pivots. But what does that mean? Well, depending on where the fulcrum is placed, it can give somebody either more or less power when they're trying to move something with a lever. And Ahsoka sees herself as a fulcrum because she knows that if she can place herself in the right place and time, she can make it so that the Resistance has enough power to move something as large as the Empire. And the more she works with the Resistance, the more she encounters other fulcrums. Other people, like Agent Kallus, whose position in the Empire can either tip the scale of balance in favor of the new rebellion, or if they were double agents, could expose Ahsoka's new organization and strengthen the Empire even more. When she was working to help the farmers fight back against the Empire, she saw firsthand that just wanting to win wasn't enough. And when she started to work with Bail Organa, she saw that they had a good amount of ships, but I think Ahsoka was smart enough to realize that you could never beat the Empire with sheer force, and that she would need the right people and information to help lever all these resources that Bail Organa had organized. So Ahsoka made sure that she would be that fulcrum, and that she would work hard to find others that could help tip the scales in the favor of the Resistance. And just to help illustrate this point, I'm going to end with a quote from Archimedes: "Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I shall move the world." I'm thinking Ahsoka had a similar feeling towards the Empire, and I think it's just awesome how the book ties together the Clone Wars and to Rebels, which of course ties into the original trilogy. But before you go, I also wanted to point out that the fulcrum symbol is actually based on those facial markings that Ahsoka has. But that's all for this video. Hopefully this explained to you why Ahsoka and Agent Kallus both used the code name Fulcrum, and how she ended up picking that name to begin with. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button, and be sure to leave a comment down below if I missed any cool facts, or if you have a suggestion for future videos. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at MetaNerdsLore, so you can see us build Star Wars props and cosplays, along with some other cool Star Wars stuff. If you want to help support this channel, check out the description below for our Amazon store and our Patreon. And be sure to subscribe, because we're making videos like this every single day. But more important than all that, remember, never use the Force when Imperials are watching, and the Force will be with you, always.